What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the 2022 Halloween Horror Nights review. This is going to be a little bit faster than, than last year's, a little bit more concise, and we only had a few people hanging out with us this year. We, of course, have Mr. Zachary Smith.
Yo.
And the amazing, lovely, beautiful Sarah Trukowski.
Oh my God!
Glad to be back.
We're very happy to have you. So, we are going to be talking about all of the things of this year's Halloween Horror Nights, the houses, the scare zones, even though there kind of wasn't much to talk about there, and then a few other things. And actually, we didn't see a show, so we're not going to talk about the show because we don't know what the hell happened.
We didn't eat the food either.
I think we're honestly afraid of eating the food because it's
I learned my lesson last time. Don't do it.
Yeah, dude. Although I did have a cocktail. I did. The cocktails were good.
The drinks are good.
Yeah,
I will say. It was ghoulish something. I thought I got the red one. You got the blue one. Actually, no. Everybody else got the blue one. I was the only one who got the red one, right?
Yeah, I think so. How was the red one?
Fucking delicious.
Really
I
nice.
thought it was orange.
Red, orange. It's all the same.
Yeah, it's all in that hue, so to speak. So I think that when I have the map in front of me right now, I think we can talk about the scare zones because that might be the quickest thing. We have a lot more to say about the houses because there were some really. I don't think that there was not a particular bad one. There was only like ones that were, in my opinion, that were like forgettable and okay. I don't think there was one that was particularly awful.
No.
Like which is it was more I can say than last time we did this because there was at least one that was just bad. So let's get into the scare zones real quick, and I have the little stuff. So we have the entrance one, the horrors of Halloween. I only have one thing to say about it. For the most part, the house it was okay. I think I enjoyed it. That little opening section is always a little weird. There's a few cool things going on. The highlight of the show with that was the dude in the pumpkin. That was talking to everybody, but that's kind of my only opinion about it. What did both of you think?
I mean, that's really all there was to it. The guy in the pumpkin outfit over at the entrance was pretty cool and everything like that, but that said, compared to last year, they had like more scare actors out there doing a little bit more, with more decorations and everything like that. Granted, it was the 30th anniversary, but it was very watered down compared to last year, at least the days we went. Mind you, we went 3 days this year to try to, get everything, get some coverage and all that, and try to get an idea what the fuck was going on. So that scare zone was pretty consistent all 3 days, I would say. Very, samey.
Yeah. So, and then also just so you know, we did go 3 separate days to get as much coverage as we possibly could.
I just said that.
I know. I'm reiterating for the audience, sir.
I think they heard me.
The fine. Baby Kicks, what did you think of that particular scare zone, the opening one?
Honestly, the opening one, I barely remember it. All I remember is the pumpkin guy in the beginning, which I think was really different from the last year. Like, they didn't have such a, what's the word I'm looking for? Centered attraction. A centered thing where everyone's gathering around in the beginning. Wow, look at how cool this guy is, with his pumpkin. He's coming out. He was, coming out of the pumpkin, and, he was some pumpkin lord, and, fog was going, and he was, had a weird voice and talking to interacting with the guests. I don't remember them doing anything like that for the opening last year, which was really cool for this year.
Yeah, I don't really particularly remember any scare zones actually where they had with the exception of
they've had interactions before, yeah.
But not in that location. They and actually in the years that they've had, I honestly think that was a newer location that they did. The last year, the years in past, I don't think they really did anything in that little area. I think that's kind of a new area. So. Those people that are popping in for the first time and didn't watch last year's, I've been doing this since 2009, but Zach and Sarah had, attended for the first time ever last year for the 30th anniversary. So I'm coming in with the experience of having, years past what I can remember, because it seems to be all jumbled up these days. But anything else you wanted to add with that particular scare zone?
Not really.
Yeah, no, I know it's pretty. So let's get to, in my opinion, that was kind of the the disappointment of scare zones, at least in my opinion, was Sweet's Revenge, just because the last year that area was so good and we had such a fun time with that area, that this one kind of seemed it was a cool concept. I liked how they were starting to do, and actually it's very similar to Sarah's T-shirt right now. That kind of that 50s, that paper mache masks that were very big during that time. And they kind of did something that was in the vein of that, and it was like people that were dressed up for Halloween were taking over a small town. There was a candy company associated with it, and then our friend the baghead was there. That we made a joke about how that's the person who shows up late. They get the shittiest costume,
like a sack of potatoes.
Yeah.
They wear like a potato sack over their head.
So funny. They it's always a comment there.
Honestly, a normal potato sack would have looked cooler because this was like those cheesy mascot uniforms. Like they weren't just like normal like scare costumes. They were very mascotish with some horror elements to them. I mean, they weren't bad. It was just meh.
It was to me. It was more like a cool photo op rather than a scare zone. Like it's cooler to take like photo ops with people, but like the scare zone as a whole was rather disappointing.
I think that's a good one for kids.
Yeah. I would say that.
Yeah.
I would say that was probably.
It wasn't that scary.
Like kids first, like scare zone haunting thing. Like I think that's a good section for it. Like maybe that's what they were going for. I doubt it, but I mean, like if you wanted to introduce your kids to like scares and stuff like that, that would be a good spot to do it. It's nothing too brutal, nothing too like hardcore or anything like that. It's a lot, simpler. So
yeah, a couple things I want to say about that scare zone was. I mean, yeah, it was an interesting concept. It was like a vintage, like the whole theme of the horror nights this year was like vintage type Halloween. So yeah, those old masks that kids would wear back when Halloween was becoming really popular, I think, for kids. But like this section just, yeah, it was not scary really. Like it was hard to tell what the story was, what was going on. There was a lot of, like after watching it a while, you could tell it was supposed to be like a town Halloween fair, and you had like the mayor, and you had like his booth up top, and you had all these floats, and then you had like weird like horror candy, like heads on lollipop sticks and like stuff like that. So it's like hard to tell what was going on, what this was supposed to be. And I don't know if you guys remember, or if you were there, but there was like a little skit they put on to like kind of that went with the tale, and it was like the mayor was up top announcing like, oh, the costume contest results are in, and then all of a sudden these kids in costumes start like killing everybody.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, I guess that's a pretty simple story, it doesn't need to be complex, but it only happened once the whole 3 times we went.
Yep.
And it never happened again. And you're like, how often do they do that? And then also what confused me too was as you're because that was like an area that we kind of, I don't know, I just found us just hanging out in for a minute just to like take a break, or someone was off getting something or using the bathroom. We kind of just were like, it was a rest point for us a lot. So I was standing there quite a bit trying to watch and figure things out. And every now and then there was like loud noises of people screaming and like sounds like someone's getting slashed or stabbed, but no one was doing anything in the zone. Like they just kept walking amongst the crowd, and I'm like, is that supposed to be like background noise? And it was weird because the sound effect that was happening was coming from like over that way.
Yep.
Not in the zone. And I was like, what is that? Is that even part of the zone? Like, what is that supposed to even be? Because they're not doing anything with it.
Yeah,
I
had that
it was
exact same
loud
question
too. I was like, what's that supposed to be?
Yeah, and I only saw like the end of that show, and I guess Baghead ends up killing the mayor, and
Baghead had a good role this year.
Yeah. So maybe they weren't particularly too beaten up on, but yeah, I mean overall it was okay. I think it's just that that Seek and Destroy was so cool last time that we kind of had higher expectations for that, and then it was definitely I think a disappointment on the on the high end.
The look of it looked great. It just was, what the hell's going on and what's the story?
The no, I can definitely appreciate that. The so yeah, I and then we went from disappointing to what to the witch one that didn't make any fucking sense. It was so like it was just like what's going on here?
All I know is there was a hot witch on stage and there was heavy metal music playing and she was dancing, so I'm not complaining.
Well, let me describe it for you then, because I got a clear view. It was pretty much like, again, one time throughout all 3 days that we were there, they had a skit. Remember how Seek and Destroy had it like over and over and over again, and we saw it several times? This one happened one time. Yeah, I don't even know what the hell she was saying, so I wasn't very interested. It almost seemed like they were trying to ring in like the Hocus Pocus fans because that new movie came out, and
that makes a lot of sense.
It reminded me a lot of Hocus Pocus, and yeah, it was just her like everyone's standing in front of the stage because this witch appears on stage with music, and everyone's like, "Oh, there's gonna be something going on here." Stood there for like 20 minutes, and she was just like moving around to music.
There was one point where I saw like pyrotechnics or something like that off in the distance. I was like, is that fire? I'm gonna go check that out. And I stood, like you said, we were there for like 20 minutes and we went through that exact scare zone all 3 days and I never saw the goddamn pyro. I was just like, I know I saw that shit in the distance.
Yeah,
I still don't know where that came from.
I'm
pretty sure it came from the stage.
Yeah, so yeah, it was just a general like, again, there seems to be a common theme here of like, like them setting up, like having setups for shows within the scare zones, but then never like
going through with it.
Yeah, following through. Like it's just very. It's very like literally like it's like watching a YouTube video where the sound and the picture don't match up, and then you have that weird like what the fuck is going on? It's very strange. I think we were there for like 20 minutes, and I think we all looked at each other. We're like, ready to go. Yep.
You know what I noticed was like a common thing this year with the scare actors. Someone had somewhere in corporate had what they must have thought was a brilliant scare technique, which is really stupid and just actually annoying. What I don't know if you noticed was happened a couple times in 2 different scare zones. Where, so the part where, like, they actually were doing something on stage and the witch had some kind of dialogue and then all her, like, minions were in front of the stage staring at the audience. And at the end of her spiel or whatever she said, they just, like, ran at the crowd. And you're like, oh, geez, excuse me, like, that was annoying.
Yeah, I saw that.
Was that supposed to be scary?
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, I almost got knocked over. That happened again in one other one, and I'll mention that.
I think I already know what you're talking about. All right, let's get to always the fan favorite that always wins the scare zones. To be perfectly honest, it's truly just because of its location, which was Scarecrow Cursed Soil. Which is in the wooded area of the the walk around, which is always just gonna be a win. You can put anything in that fucking section and it's just gonna win just because of its setting. However, here's what I will say about this one: that one could have been cheap. It could have been just relied on the laurels of it being the location. In my personal opinion, it really wasn't. It actually had a cool thing going on, a very Scarecrow farm, type of deal to it, and like it was actually cool. Like it had really good atmosphere and good costumes, and and obviously some days were better than others just because of the amount of scare actors that were there. But it was really, it was cool. Like and again, it's one of those things that it had every right to suck because it's the perfect location within the park to do a really good scare zone. But at the end of the day, it actually did something of quality. And I actually really enjoyed it. Because I pay attention to that area very, very closely. And I will for the rest of my life on that. Because it's one of those areas that's already going to be good. Let's see if they actually gave a shit. And thus this far over the last several years that they have done it, they have always, whoever the hell is in charge of that section, always gives a shit. And I imagine they all fight, designing wise, to fight for that section because it's such a great section because of the wooded, area and the coverage. But it's always good, and it never relies on its laurels of already being a good location. It actually provides something of quality and substance.
Cool.
The
Yeah.
Sarah.
I was
go.
just gonna say, was that the one with the bird face guys
Yes.
that I liked?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes,
I always seem to find a friend in that section.
And you ruin another person's career.
Last year it was a rat guy. This year was a bird.
And both of those people are now currently unemployed.
Well, it has some cool costumes though. Like again, it was like a weird cornfield, like Scarecrow area. I noticed one costume had like like the face was like an ear of corn or something.
Yeah, I
Like-
caught that.
Like someone became like a stalk of corn. Or
I thought it was cool.
It
I
was
thought
cool.
it was
I'm
cool.
not trying to say it was stupid. I liked it. It was cool.
I remember there was one lady like that was literally like that was like, yeah, you know, like, hey, come on, please just come out one more time so we can take a picture of you.
He was like, I have to wait for the sound effect to go off.
So Zach, what did you think about? I know that's one of your favorite locations for scare zones.
I mean, it just has the atmosphere. I mean, like the whole wooded section. Like I'm a sucker for that kind of shit. So that, and I mean, you just add some fog and some good foliage or scenery. I'm gonna be into it. It definitely had my favorite scare actor costume of the entire section. It was this like tree dude who had this like glowing like orange kind of like face with the eyes and the mouth and everything like that, but his whole body was essentially invisible if he positioned himself right. It was fucking awesome. I saw him get like 3 guys at one moment. I was like, you go, dude.
Yeah, that was awesome. That's fucking
really great costume. Loved it.
Yeah, it seems to be, the people get got a lot in that section. So last but not least, was the graveyard one. And actually, I liked this one, and I think it was a drastic improvement over Lights, Camera, Action. That was
Lights, Camera, Action was fucking trash.
It was
so boring,
trash. But this one actually was really good. And the one thing I'll say that I had never seen used before that I can remember was the lightning effect with the lights. Coming off of the buildings, and then the thunder effect would happen, and then the lights would actually flash and do lightning. I'd never seen that before.
Yeah, because for the most part, like I remember we didn't do that one the first day, but we saw off in the distance. It was just like that area is completely blacked out. That we got to check that out at some point, and for some reason we just never went over there that first time for some reason. But yeah, it was a really cool section. Funny enough, so the first day we actually did go over there, which was the second day we were at Halloween Horror Nights. It was during the day, and there was 1 or just 2 scare actors in that, and we're just like, what the fuck is this? This looks... It's not even bad. It was just sad because you had this one guy trying to run an entire scare zone, and it's like, I feel sorry for him. Like, we came back a little later, and there was 2 guys, but... Besides that, the third day we went was when it was actually really cool. They actually had the whole like team there and everything, and it was a fucking great scare zone. If Mark, Sarah, if y'all want to talk about it.
Yeah, I really liked the set. You know, old like cemetery. It was so cool. Like, I don't know if it was my family's background of working in the funeral business or what, but like I loved like the mausoleum and like the old like, the where people get buried like in a wall, you know, like, and they had like the flowers there, like, oh, it was so cool. And this just like, it was simple enough, but it was effective, and like I loved the costumes, like when we got to actually see some actors go through. That was another part where they used the run into the audience technique. There was this cute little twins, ghost girls, because basically it was supposed to be like they're coming to life, like the cemetery, and like people are coming out of their graves, and there's this like weird, like creature demon guy who's summoning all of them, which I don't think he was there the first time we went.
Nope.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
the
that
first time
totally
we
just botched the whole story because there was nothing when we went there the first time.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think it was the second or third time we saw it was very active. It had a lot of actors in it, a lot of different things going on. It was very cool. I think we were lucky we got to see that, because like if we didn't, it just would have been a bad one. But clearly it was very planned out and very well done.
Yeah, no, and the set design for the whole thing was really cool. Even though it was simplistic, I thought it was very, very cool and very well done. It gave you really good atmosphere, in the whole area. And actually the They definitely had some really good scare actors when they were there. For there, because we went on the second night we went was actually a makeup day from Hurricane Ian. They shut down for 2 days, and they actually did one makeup day where they opened up on a Tuesday. And I think we already had a feeling that there was going to be less actors there that day, just because it is what it is. It certainly was a really good scare zone for us. I think it was really good.
It was cool.
So real quick before we move on, I know that scare zones were a little bit on the lesser side, but what was let's go around the horn real quick. What was your favorite and what was your least favorite? I'll make the categories a lot simpler than I did last year.
Are we talking scare zones?
Yeah, scare zones. Yep.
Obviously, the cemetery.
Nice. And what was your least favorite?
I guess the candy one.
Yeah. And then
I got confused because when I read the descriptions, I thought the candy one and the entrance were like the same or something. I don't know. I got confused.
Well, that goes to show you how kind of whatever the scare zones were. Zach, how about you?
Favorite one was the forest section one, with my second favorite being the cemetery. Least favorite was that one fucking candy one. I could give 1,000 hells less about that one.
Yeah, I think that for a tie for worst is definitely Sweet Revenge, and the witch one. The witch one was just kind of just whatever.
I didn't mind it. It
I
was
also
alright.
keep forgetting about it.
Yeah. Again, that'll get tell you everything you want to know about this. Is very forgettable. But I think actually my favorite would be the graveyard one. I think there's just something about that was very striking. And obviously with the second being the Scarecrow one where the wooded area is at, that's definitely a big thing. Now, let's get to the thing that we all really want to talk about, which is the actual houses, which were really damn good. Let's go in order here. Let's go A to B. B. There we got nine or 10 separate houses this year, so we certainly had quite a bit of an experience to boot. So let's go down the block. So we had Hellblock enter prison, whose savage inmates are monstrous creatures. If they break free from their cells, it's a death sentence for everyone. What do we think about the Hellblock horror one?
This one was visceral. If I had to describe this with one word, it was visceral. There was plenty of blood, plenty of just gory sounds and just random violent shit happening. I enjoyed this one a lot. It was a lot of fun. And it's the first one you're technically able to go into. Like, you walk through the door, and the house is right there. So
yeah, that is true. And I see Sarah with a smile on her face, so I'm here. I'm interested to see.
I mean, I could tell that it was effectively scary because usually when I don't really remember much of what the inside of the house looked like, I only have like one or two few visual memories of it. That's when I know I had my eyes closed most of the time, and I was like just looking at the floor and not paying attention to what was going around me because I was terrified. So that one was definitely, I probably looked around once or twice because I think I was unfortunately placed in the line for that one because I think I was timed to get all the jumps at me.
Okay.
That probably
so that's why I was I always know when a house I was jumping around a lot. I know that's I know it because I don't really remember it because I'm this the whole time.
That's funny. I love this house, but I loved how balls to the wall random it was in certain sets. First it's mutants taking over the prison, and then zombies take over the prison, and then fucking aliens take over the prison. I'm where the fuck am I? What is going on? I walk through it, and then it's zombies, and then when you first walk in, it's great, man, because it really gets you into that there's a prison break, and it doesn't happen all at once. You can see things the wheels turning of it slowly losing control, and the guards are losing control of the prison. And then it's zombies, that take over them, and then it's mutants to take over the zombies. And then at one point I turned to the left and there was a fucking alien there. And I'm like, who's running this prison? I think that the zombies took over and then aliens were watching from above.
I don't think they could decide.
And then like the aliens are like, it's good for us to invade. Let's go do our shit. But it was visceral. It was balls to the wall. You felt like you were in a prison. Like, it was good. It reminds me of a haunted house from years ago called Dogs of War that was in a military experiment facility that was experimenting on humans to turn them into werewolves, essentially. And then there was an outbreak and everything else. It reminded me of that, which was a very good house. And I loved how visceral it was. It was very white knuckled, I would actually say. It was pretty balls to the wall, which I liked.
Yeah, you kind of felt like the violence and the everything happening in there.
Yeah. Which was really, really cool. All
right, next one.
So we have one that I thought would be better, but ended up being kind of okay. Is the Spirits of the Coven, a coven of flappers, witches that'll lure you into their 20s speakeasy to turn you into a witch's brew. They'll be cackling and you'll be screaming. I really wanted to hear more about what you had to say, because this one was something that's like right dead down your alley of especially from an aesthetics perspective. So I really wanted to hear your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I really love the idea, Art Deco, 1920s, witches. That's everything I love. It was okay. I just remember, I liked the sets. I liked the scenery. It just wasn't as effective. I think I don't even know what they could have done better, honestly. And the one disappointment I had was at one point you have this ugly witch looking creature, but her mask was coming off. It was a rubber,
shit.
But it was a rubber mask that you get at a costume store. It wasn't, you just plop it on your face. It wasn't glued or done up or fixed or, done very well. It was I was what the hell? That's a disappointment.
That sucks.
Yeah.
That sucks a lot. How about you, Zach?
I don't remember it.
Well, that'll give you your answer. I loved the aesthetics. Because when you walked in, they were playing ragtime music and everything else, and it was very of that. And I love that whole thing. That's something that Sarah and I share. Is our love for everything Art Deco and 1920s and that speakeasy gangster kind of thing. It's really, really, really cool. And visually, the set design was great. It was a great set design. I thought the aesthetics were great. But I certainly think that there was something lacking within the scare actor department. I kind of agree with you. I just I don't think that there was enough to build upon this house. I would have loved to have seen any other type of monster in this setting. I think it would have been a better situation had we had more of just had more of of something something else, just some other monster. Vampires would have been, I think vampires would have been a lot better, actually. I think that would have been really far more interesting than witches. And I just don't think, and it kind of comes back to that other scare zone, it just maybe just witches are just not that fucking interesting in that kind of setting.
And if they did vampires, that'd be even cooler, because it would remind me of my favorite American Horror Story season 5 with the Art Deco hotel and then these vampire type people. That would have been awesome. I would have loved it 20 times more if it was vampires.
Yeah, no, I agree. Zach, anything that you that was inspiring your memory, or are you still?
I mean, it was the first house we did, and I remember it looking nice, I guess. I don't remember not liking it. It wasn't a bad house by any stretch of the means. It was just, compared to the other houses we did later, because this was the first one, it's just I just straight up don't remember it. And because, I didn't have the patience to stand in a fucking 60-minute line to do it one more time, I was just it's kind of faded, sadly. So, but yeah, that's just around. That's where I'm at on it.
All right, number C, and watch everyone roll their fucking eyes out of their sockets right now for one specific reason. Halloween, come face to face with Michael Myers and go back where it all began. Step into the terrifying. I didn't even look at everybody. I just heard them. Just the
This
breath.
fucking house had the most unnecessarily long lines. Like, okay, story. Every time we were there, the lines were bare minimum 60 minutes. Now, we ended up getting to the Halloween Horror Nights very early on our third day. Like, we were there walking through the door as they were opening it.
Open for 6 minutes.
No. 5 minutes, and the line is already an hour and 20 minutes long. How? Why? It's Halloween. It's Michael fucking Myers, the basic bitch of slashers, and everyone's losing their goddamn mind over this one. Leatherface wasn't even this popular last year. Michael? Really? Why? The house was good. That's it. It was good, okay. It did the first movie fine. It was not a great house. It was not an amazing house. It was okay at best. And the lines were just so unnecessarily fucking long. Get a fast pass.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my god, that's awesome. And hold on, and she's laughing, but she was not fucking happy. Sarah does not do well in lines. And especially on the Sarah time, which if you want to go to our TikTok and look at last year, Sarah will explain what Sarah time actually is. Look at her face right now. That's the face she makes. But
we waited 12 hours, and then the next day we waited 24.
It was ridiculous. It was because the movies coming out. That's the reason why. And okay, so just putting the frustration aside for just a moment, like Zach said, the house was good. I think it was, and I would actually even say it was a solid house. It was not worth an hour and a half that we had to wait for.
Not at all.
But I don't think any house would have been worth it. Like, there's very few houses that I can think of, with the exception of last year. I would have waited an hour and a half for Haunting of Hill House. I would have waited that. I would have waited that long for Haunting of Hill House. And there's a couple other ones that I remember from the past that I would have waited that long. I would have waited an hour and a half for Beetlejuice. I would not have been. Yes, you know that's true.
I'm gonna give a solid maybe on that one.
And I wouldn't have been disappointed when I got to it. I just think that all of our opinions of this house are going to be jaded because of how long the lines are,
and the fact we had to do it twice.
Yes, and despite what I was thinking in the time, I'm realizing that both of these two were correct. That the second day line was longer than the first day line.
It was.
Oh, it was.
But I think what the funniest part was, unfortunately, like, we weren't planning on doing it the first day we were there. We were tired. It was like the end of the night. Things were gonna close in like 20 minutes, and then your cousin's like, "Hey, like, come on, let's do it. We could get in line for this one more." You know, and I think it was his only day he was going, but you were like, "Nah, dude, like, you go ahead, we're done." And he's like, No, like, let's go. It's like, like, it's the end of the night. It says it's an hour wait, but it's gonna be like a half hour. So we kind of, dragged our feet into the line, and it was like over an hour wait.
And normally that logic is true with Halloween Horror Nights. The last hour is the time you get all the houses in, because the lines are really short, and you do a mad dash. In this case, it was not, but Kevin's a massive Halloween fan, so it was very important to him to go on that.
Right, and this is a good tradition with your cousin.
Yes,
and,
yes.
I understood, and but yeah, I mean, it was just, the funny part of it is that he's like, 30 minutes, man, come on, and we were like in there for like 2 hour line, 2 hour line.
Was awful, but like, okay, so
I remember, like, me, your cousin, and I think you were even in on this, even though you were dazed and fucking confused. These fucking fucking kids kept cutting in line, and we're just like, where the fuck are the parents? Somebody control these little pieces of shit.
Yeah.
It was terrible. Like, so, all right. I know that's frustration. Let's try our best to talk about the house itself. I'm going to go more on the basis of the second time we went through it, because the first time I was not there physically. I just zombied, walked through it. There were the one thing I will say is it was cool that they went through the entire first movie. I dug that. I thought that was cool. The three parts that I remember the most that I thought were really cool and effective were when you see the beginning of the movie, and then as you're walking down a hallway, they're showing a projection of the opening title sequence, which I thought was cool. And then they also have a replica of the Meyer house in front, and they do the whole thing with the sheets. And the one part, my favorite part of the whole thing, which I thought was really cool, when you're passing by a stairs and he's up at the top of the stairs. I thought that was really cool and effective, and I'm like, that was the one moment where I'm like, I'm in the movie. Like I'm in this movie right now. I thought it was really cool. But overall, solid house. Good house, not great house, but solid good house. Not worth the wait. But that's all I have to say about that. Zach or Sarah, you want?
Unless you're a diehard, and I mean diehard Michael Myers fan, like the wait was not worth it. But it was a solid house. You were legitimately going through the entire first movie, and they did a very solid job at that. When we were going through it, I was having a good time. I was having an excellent time. Everything was cool, very authentic to the movie and everything like that. All the experiences, the sheets, the house. There was one thing at the end that wasn't in the movie. So you walk through this hall of Michaels. And it was just like... so the idea is you're supposed to wonder, all right, which one's the actual, like, scare actor Michael? The problem was, every time we walked through that house, I'd always see him, like, move and get somebody else, like, right before we actually enter the room, so I always knew every time. And he was always in the same position, too. I kind of wish he would have, like, switched spots, so that way it's just like, all right, where is it? Oh, it's the same guy. All right, cool. But the idea was nice, so...
Baby?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like a huge Halloween fan. I've only seen the first movie. Oh, take that back. I saw like some of the newer ones, especially the one that went back to his backstory as a kid and everything. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it was a good house. It just kind of was like, again, like the Chainsaw Massacre one, where it's the same character scaring you over and over again, and it gets kind of redundant. Like, that last time it was just, Leatherface popping out and shaking a chainsaw at you. This time it was like Michael Myers just running up to you and just standing like this.
I'll give this one a little bit more.
Oh, this is awkward.
Oh, shit.
I hate you both. I hate you both. Anyway, I did though, by the way, I did hear when I was walking through, I by the way, I'm a sucker for that last ending when they do that. I always am.
I hate that. I
love
hate
it, but
that.
I know you do, because I literally heard you say, I literally heard her enter the room because she was behind me, and she's like, fuck that.
Oh my gosh. I hate that. I hate when they do that.
It was so funny.
Actually, we actually do have a funny story in the house. So, as you know, the wait lines were extremely fucking long. So to add on to that problem, when we were walking through, I heard Sarah turn around and say, "What the fuck?" So me instinctively, I turn around and we notice there's no one following us. They're like, because you know how it's a conga line of people? Yeah. And then we even turn around and we hear the scare actor say, "Where the fuck is the crowd?"
Well, it was one of the security people. Like, what? Where are they?
What the fuck is going on?
And, of course, it was some dumb fucking, customer trying to get a better experience than just walking through a line of people. So he purposely delayed his group, and then in turn delayed the entire line behind him.
Yeah.
Like, whatever, man. But like, come on.
It was so damn funny. Literally we get to the Myers house, which is probably dead smack in the middle of the house. And like I turn around, I'm like, are they open? Like there was no one. And it's also a point where there's no scare actors anymore. So like you're right in front of the Myers house, and you're like, wait, what? Did they close early? What's going on? This is weird. But overall, solid house.
Yep. All right. What's the next one, Mark?
So we'll do this one quickly because Sarah didn't go on. It was the Chupacabra. Visit a Latin.
Can I just say why I didn't go in it?
As soon as I read the description, visit a Latin American village where the legend of the Chupacabra lives on, and the streets are lined with blood of tourists like you.
Okay, so my friend went in it before me, and like she told me that there was giant, humongous, scary animatronic guys growling and foaming at the mouth and gonna bite your head off. I was like, oh, hell no. And by this time, I think it was like the third night we were there or something. I was exhausted. My fucking feet hurt. I was like, you know what? You guys go ahead. I'm not going on this one. I can do without the heart attack for today. So
Zach and I walked in, and I thought that this was going to be a problematic house because we didn't see a scare actor for a few minutes. At least solid 30 seconds to a minute while we walked in the house. But the atmosphere was great. You were like literally in the favelas or the ghettos of like South America, and you're walking through, and there was like a Latin beat somewhere far away and like some eerie music. So the atmosphere right off the bat was great. This house had by the way, animatronics have not been used in the past. It has not been a common thing as far as I can remember with Halloween Horror Nights. This is new. This is a newer thing that they were doing, and I gotta say that the animatronics were actually pretty damn impressive considering. And overall, the atmosphere was great. And honestly, at the end of the day, this house was made far more entertaining by a group of girls that were in front of us that were hysterical to watch. And literally, we enter a room, and there's only one scare actor in this entire huge room, and he scares them. And they all huddle together, and they're all grabbing each other like this, and everyone around is all laughing and dying. And literally, it becomes the Bad Boys meme, like when you see your boy from across the room, and you're like, ah! And then everybody in the whole crowd did that with the one scare actor, and it was just so. It reminds you why Halloween Horror Nights is great, because it was just so interactive and so much fun. But this house was actually pretty damn good. This is a pretty damn good house. The aesthetics are great, costumes are great, scare actors were great. The atmosphere was fantastic, and Zach and I Latin danced our ass out of the house in the last like 30 seconds. We're like,
They had some meringue music, and we're over here just dancing like that.
We look like a bunch of
security guards are
fucking
laughing at us.
morons, and we're walking on the way out.
And if I was in there with you, I'd be furious at you guys. Be like pushing you out of the way, like move your fucking ass.
Oh no, we would have been dancing. It was so much fun.
You would have been dancing. I would have been pushing your ass.
I know, and I would have left. You guys did that before. Zach, what about you? What do you think about
I love this one. From all those experiences, and then like the most unexpected thing to attack me. So there's one moment where the animatronic Chupacabra comes out, and I had all my focus on that. It scared the shit out of the girls, and I'm laughing. And then out of nowhere, a fucking mattress with linens just slams me. I'm like, what the fuck was that? I'm like, there's a Chupacabra, and I got attacked by linens. What the hell just happened?
Oh my god! I wonder whose job that was to like reset the bed and the linens, and then like throw it at the next person.
Like, what the fuck?
Probably the person who was late for work.
So great.
It was fucking dope. All right, so let's get to the house that we all adored, which was Dead Man's Pier Winter Wake. In a New England fishing village, undead fishermen emerge from the waves to seek their revenge, and they'll reel you in and drag you under. This house was fucking fantastic.
Yes.
This was a fantastic house. It was set in a New England town. It was very reminded me of all old Stephen King ghost stories. It reminded me of The Fog. The atmosphere in this house was second to none. It was like walking into a ghost story, and it was colder in there because it was a New England town. It was raining. There was a ghost chick that was up on top of a sinking boat playing a violin and like banshee screaming at people as they were walking in. You had an old guy behind the bar telling old ghost stories. You had some dudes in some old school diving equipment, and literally they were dead people, and they had a little bit of water inside of them. I was waiting for a fucking big daddy and little sister to walk around the corner. It was a awesome house, and I am disappointed that the people that will not be able to see that, because you cannot beat this atmosphere. It had, I would dare to say, almost, and maybe a little bit more great atmosphere than the Haunting of Hill House from the last year.
Oh, I would say it definitely beats Haunting of Hill House. Like, Haunting of Hill House was a great house, don't get me wrong. This one, it surpassed all my expectations. Beautiful. You're going up levels of docks, so there was a little bit of interactivity. The diving suit guys were cool, even though they were only there for one day. The second day we went through there, they disappeared. The fact that they had like this mist coming down to like simulate rain was beautiful. It just, the smell too. You smelled like you could
Salt
smell
water.
the pier.
Salt water. You smelled salt water. It was that fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact that you love this house as well. You were blown away the second that you walked in. You're like, wow, this is so fucking cool. I want to hear what you had to say about this.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much that's it. I mean, it was definitely my favorite. Like, I love that idea of, the weird, seafarers village. Yeah, I just love that idea in general. And like, yeah, I mean, it puts you there. It puts you in the setting. I love the little tavern it has you walk into the beginning. So you're in a cold atmosphere when you walk in, and you kind of are like in the middle of like an old town. There's like a, fountain, and then you walk into a warmly lit tavern, and you have this like, fisherman guy telling an old tale behind the bar, and that was cool. I loved the tank people, the people with the big old-fashioned, diving suits with like their faces were kind of like iridescent or something, like they were glowing a little bit, almost like those fish that are like, what do they call them, the glow, like I don't know, it just was really well done costumes, setting. I think that was really a good one.
Yeah, and then and also too, just obviously there'll be some footage inserted with this, but they were everybody was glowing a neon blue. All the characters, so you had a situation where they were all basically ghosts, and they had that feel to them. Like I've never seen that done in a live setting where they're made to look like ghosts and they're glowing, a neon blue, and it was just the best atmosphere I think I've ever seen at Halloween Horror Nights, and I've been doing this for a while, and that was congratulations, Halloween Horror Nights, you knocked it out of the fucking park with this one. The anything else on this one? And this was like one of our favorites.
Squirrels.
I love it. All right, so this one will be fast. The horrors of Blumhouse. Enter the worlds of two horror masterpieces, Blumhouse, as you face the most horrifying moments of Freaky and Black Phone.
Okay, so for this one, I want to give a little backstory. So when we first heard about this, all we saw was the Blumhouse logo. It's just like, all right, so it's a Blumhouse themed house. They had the Black Phone thing advertised all over it, but I heard it was multiple movies, so I'm like, all right, cool. So we're walking through it, and it's mainly freaky for the most part, so I'm just like, okay, they're doing a decent job with the freaky stuff. And then we get out of it, the freaky part, and I'm like, what the fuck? That was it? This was like 2 minutes long. I was just like, well, this... And then I look back, I'm like, wait a minute. What's that poster? Where do we... it's not over. There's more. Oh, this is awesome! Let's go!
It was the most interesting transition between. It's almost like going to two houses.
Yeah,
that was what was interesting. It's almost like going to two different houses. They didn't mix them. They actually separated the two different ones. So good aesthetics, good environment. I love the movie Freaky. Have not seen the movie Black Phone. I think it had really, really good aesthetics. We were questioning the age of some of the actors that were in there. We were like, this is a little concerning. But overall, I think a solid house. I enjoyed it. Certainly not as memorable as some of the other ones. I do really enjoy the movie Freaky, and I thought they did a good job with that. But I think overall, a solid house. Not anything, too far direction of horrible or too far direction of amazing, but definitely a solid house with some really good scares and some really good actors for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the same thing. I hadn't seen either movies, but I've seen plenty of Blumhouse movies, and I usually love them and think they're terrifying. So I was a little like concerned going in about how scary it was going to be. It really wasn't that scary for me. Again, I get kind of, bored after a while seeing the same creature or being come at you again and again. Like the Michael Myers, and now it was this black phone guy. But yeah, I think it was pretty good otherwise.
Zach.
Yeah. I actually had a lot of fun with this one. I thought they did a good job with the freaky one. The black phone house actually made me want to watch the movie, which I'll be doing sometime in the vicinity future. But, that whole thing where you're transitioning between, to a different house, I'm like, oh, that was unexpected and very pleasant. I appreciate that. That was nice. I like that.
I'm actually glad that they didn't try to mix the two try to, force it in a mix. They're like, you know what? This is good if we just separate them.
Yes.
And it still makes sense for them to be the same, but and also too, it's mentally you're like, I'm transitioning to a different universe. You can take a mental note and be like, I'm transitioning to a universe. So, a tiny bit of backstory for a quick 30 seconds. Sarah, we were talking with everybody, and Sarah had mentioned, she's like, you know what? None of the houses have any kind of a story, any kind of a transition of different stories and everything else. I feel confused about. There's no really story of progression and everything else, and we just happen to be in the line for bugs eaten alive. While touring a 1950s home of the future, you'll be swarmed by hordes of revolting insects as they swarm their way into your deepest fears. I felt really fucking dirty when I left this house. It was a great house, and Sarah got her wish granted, which was this was a perfect house of a story of progression. Things go from bad to worse to holy fuck to let's blow up the neighborhood. So this was a great house. It had so much visceral shit in it. You would walk through areas that were dark and they had things dangling from the ceiling. It felt like you were going through spider webs and there were cockroaches, giant cockroaches and spiders. And there was a dude that had literally a pulsating egg sac inside of him. This was a really good house with a really, really well done and specifically defined story. I thought it was awesome. But I definitely wanted to hear from Sarah on this one.
Definitely my second favorite house. I love the 1950s aesthetic. It's all about modernization and new technology in homes, and it kind of reminds you of the nuclear energy phase. And they came out with this new thing for your house, and it turns out it's bad, and it makes these bugs, instead of killing them in your house, they become mutant giant ass bugs that eat you and want to take over you. And exactly, very progressive. I loved how it got more and more into the story. I loved the sensory stuff that was in there. I felt like at one point something felt like a bug dropped on my head. You know what I mean? That's how it was oh my God, what the hell was that? And then, they had at one point, almost like you were getting sprayed with something too. That was cool. I think it was very well done. I loved the set design, the costumes, the story. It was one of my favorites.
And as you were walking through these dark corridors and you were getting hit by the visceral stuff, there were these amazing sound effects of fucking bugs right next to you, as if you had headphones on right next to you, and you just have what the fuck is going on? It was very cool, very visceral to say the least, and then I felt really dirty when I left. I'm I feel really gross. It was very skeezy. They've had to pick a word. Zach?
Yeah, we went through that one twice, and it was great every time. The best way I could describe it is if Fallout was more bug-focused, it had that 1950s theme. You're going through the house of the future and shit like that. It was a lot of fun. Very if you have a phobia of bugs, you're gonna have a hard time getting through this house. Like, holy shit! From the spiders, beetles, everything crawling on the walls, the things dangling from the ceilings, and like the slime-covered walls that me and Mark very much love touching.
Don't touch it.
We drove Sarah nuts and everything else.
They kept touching everything.
I drew a penis in the sand at one of the houses. I was just like, it was.
Don't touch.
But yeah, no, this was absolutely a fantastic house, and yeah, it had a very you could clearly understand the story to this house. You start off, you're going through, you're supposed to be getting a demonstration of how this new technology is going to kill the bugs by making them grow, and then they just die or some shit like that. But they don't die, they grow, they mutate, and they start murdering everybody, and by the time you get to the end, everything's getting nuked.
Yeah,
it's just like, call the bombs!
They're literally going to carpet bomb the neighborhood. There's a 50s general on like a big ass walkie-talkie, like, nuke the neighborhood. And then start over. This reminded me of like 50s drive-in movies. This is one of those houses that and Dead Man's Pier could have easily be transformed into a movie. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why they're two of our favorites, because they're so visceral and so in the case of the Dead Man's Wake, very beautiful and thematic and cinematic. So it was definitely a good house, and it's just one of those things that it runs a chill through you. You're like, oh. At least for me.
Absolutely. So, what's the next one, buddy?
Descendants of Destruction. Deep in the subway below the abandoned toxic New York City, mutant humans fight to survive. But the deeper you go, the darker your fates.
This one had a good front door and great looking stuff. But it went in random places. Mm-hmm. You're walking through, and everything looks good, sounds good, and everything. But you're just like, how the fuck did we get here? Like, at one part, we're in an underwater cave. I'm like, weren't we just in the New York Metro? How did fuck it, I'm rolling with it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it was just, to me, it was just a lot of chaos, a lot of things going on. I feel like they just took all the extra props and shit and just threw it in there. It was just too much to look at. And, again, there wasn't a good, transition into, where we're going, what we're doing. It honestly just reminded me of the CTA.
I sent a picture of the area to my buddy. I'm like, is this what the New York train stations look like? Because it's not too far from Chicago's red light stations or blue lines, depending on what neighborhood you go to.
All of them, they're all a mess.
Oh, it's so dirty. But yeah, I think for me though, I actually agree with Sarah. I think it was kind of like a just thrown together thing. It had some cool aesthetics and overall, but I think that at the end of the day, I would put this in the same category as the Spirits of the Coven. Kind of good aesthetics, but kind of not all there. Not bad, but just it's there. It's okay.
It's a good solid one. You walk through it once and you're like, okay, I had a good time.
Yeah,
move on.
I'm not upset that I waited in line for this. If I waited in the Halloween line, I would be infuriated. But nonetheless. All right, so let's get to the one that was clearly not made for our age demographic.
We're old people.
Yeah, we're old people. The Weekend, After Hours Nightmare. Enter the macabre mind of the Weekend in this haunted house as he stalks you through the surreal nightmare of his after hours music. Okay, I have three very short things to say about this. One, if I had to pick one word for this, is random. It's really fucking random, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. Two, it wasn't a horrible house. There are some things that I did enjoy. Two in particular that I did enjoy. One was the mirrors towards the end that I did enjoy. And I actually walked into a wall. I walked into the mirror wall because I was like, where the fuck am I going?
I did not know that.
Yeah, it was that case. And then the ending, which I'm always a sucker of, where they have the same thing. The only disappointing part, it was 5 of the versions of the Weekend in there. But the part that disappointed me though is that they're all dummies. Which I don't know if they didn't have enough actors that night or what the fuck happened. But overall, it was an okay house. It was fine. I thought it was gonna be trash. I thought it was gonna be absolute trash. At the end of the day, it just ended up being okay. but just completely random. The but I know that you had stronger opinions about this house than I did.
Yeah, there I was again, sitting there with my whiskey and my cigarette, trying to figure out the mystery of what the fuck is this house about? Like, what the fuck is going on here, man? Like, I don't know. Like, what the hell is this weekend guy? He's a pop singer. Why does he get a haunted house? I don't know. You know, we're standing in line for other haunted houses, and they keep advertising this music video that he does, and he's like all like, you know, just running around in the streets and gets like beat up or something, and then he has a weird face that looks like he got plastic surgery done, which I didn't see until after going into the house. So we go in the house and I'm like, what the hell's going on here? You know, you got like a surgeon, you got people with bandages on their faces, and it seems obvious when you realize what it is, but being in there, I didn't get it. I didn't follow it. I was like, what is this supposed to be? Just random horror scenes of the weekend getting killed? And then we walk out, and then, you know, days go by, and we're seeing this music video. I finally caught the end of it, and I'm like, oh, I think I had to like do like comment on plastic surgery.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess that makes sense in retrospect.
And that's the conclusion I came to. I put my files away and shut the case closed.
All right, so something that people need to understand.
I just love that cliche of Sarah smoking a cigar with a thing of whiskey.
Literally, okay, so we Sarah and I did a very fun.
What's going on
We
here?
did a fun interactive experience in Vegas, and all I did the entire time was just fuck with buttons and everything else. But Sarah really like has this tick where she wants to understand the story and like wants to understand every aspect of the story.
All the
just because it'll
details.
drive her insane if she doesn't.
Yeah.
So she'll literally like she was sitting at this like table that was supposed to like be a worker or a detective in this story, and I'm like, it's hilarious.
And I
like,
was the detective.
I'm a 6-year-old like pressing buttons, and Sarah looks down there like a hardened fucking detective, like trying to figure out like literally trying to figure out her last case before she has to retire. She's like, I gotta figure out this murder, otherwise, you know, I'm not gonna get my pension. So like it's this tick that they have to that she has to do to figure out like the story. I just like fuck it. I just accept it for what it is. So what about you, Zach, with the weekend?
It wasn't bad, but it was like there was so much light. And clearly that was the point of it, considering that was the fucking song, but I was just like, well, all right, there's some interesting things here. I mean, the dude slits a chick's throat at the beginning. I'm like, all right, well, that was all right. I mean, I would do that. There's
God.
like some body dismemberment shit, like some dude gets his head ripped off or something. All right, that was cool. The Hall of Mirror things, I did like. The only difference is they used white lights. I would have used red lights because, you know, it's horror themed. And then the last thing was the room with all the different weekend plastic surgeon face wrap dudes. And like I said, none of them did anything. Like, we walked through there, and I made sure to slow down a little bit just to try to give the guy time, or if there was a guy, I wanted to give him a minute.
Out of there, man. Don't give him any
she was
chance.
right behind me. She's just like, fucking move, Zach.
Move!
But yeah, nothing happened, so I'm just like, well, all right. It wasn't a trash house, but it's nothing I really gave a shit about either, so yeah.
Very, very middle of the road. So, all right, last but certainly not least, Universal Monsters Legends Collide. You're about to get caught in the middle of an epic battle between the Wolfman, Dracula, and the Mummy together for the first time. And if you didn't read that description, you wouldn't have any idea what the fuck is going on.
Exactly. So this house, all right, so we went through this one twice. The first time we went there with our big group, and it was very much an okay house. But the house, it's very aesthetically based off the Mummy. And again, if you didn't see that description, you wouldn't know that the Dracula and the Wolfman were ever involved. Like, to a slight degree, they kind of make an appearance here and there, but this is mainly mummy
You would never know that they're battling.
Yeah.
You would never know that they were like in a battle.
Yeah.
You just think they were showing up.
Exactly.
Yeah,
like, there's
just
no
popping
sections
out
where
everywhere.
there's no section where you see the Mummy or Dracula just like duking it out, or fucking Wolfman ripping the sheets off of the Mummy or anything like that. The only hint you get, so this is a cool idea, but you'd have to go through there multiple times in order to realize that. So at the end of the house, a random monster is going to be the winner of that night. So the first night we went, I think it was the mummy holding the Wolfman's head, and then the second time I think it was the Wolfman holding the mummy's head. So it's like they do a victory dance, you cheer him on and stuff like that, and I mean that's cool. Now the aesthetics are nice, you know, you're very much on the Tomb of the Mummy and everything like that, but I mean, like, story-wise, they could have done so much more. Like, I would have loved to have seen the Wolfman choking out a mummy, like have two characters going, "You son of a bitch!" or something, or
transitioning between different. That's when I wanted them to have multiple transitions of multiple different areas to go from the mummy to the Wolfman to Dracula. Like, that's the one I would have liked them to say. Overall, it was an okay house. I had fun with it. The one thing I will say, and this is just like an overall commentary. The first time we went in the whole group, and then Sarah wanted to break because it was on the last day. It was actually, I think it was the last house we went into.
I believe so.
And like we went in and we're like, and I gotta be honest, like some of the actors, especially getting off of last year, where they're behind glass paint, they were getting fucking ballsy. Like they were right here. Like you go to the wide here, they were like right here. Like they and then they would swipe, and I'm like, you're getting awful ballsy there, sir. Especially you with the mummy and everything. I was like, you're getting a little close there, pal.
Yeah. There was one Dracula the second night. They got really close to me. I was like, oh shit! All right, look at this guy going all in. Yeah, the second night was way more hardcore with the scare actors. Like they were really going in on it. And that's what brought up my enjoyment of this house. Like I said, the first time it was all right, pretty fucking casual and everything. Like the second time, they were in it.
Yeah, they were.
I'll give them that much. The scare actors were doing their jobs, and they took that shit seriously.
Yeah, they were committed, to say the least, and everything else. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, that's another one, too, where I guess I wasn't following the story very well, and all of a sudden then you're like, oh, he has his head out. Okay, I guess they were fighting. I don't know. The only thing I know is there was a big-ass mummy guy, like tall, big guy, the first time we went in, and that scared the shit out of me, because anything taller than an average human scares the shit out of me.
So Sarah is afraid of tall men. Duly noted.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
like literally, so many people on stilts this year too.
Well, okay, not everything, but like things like that. I was like, holy fuck! Look away! Look away! Look away!
Yeah, that's all.
That's about it.
Okay. Fair enough. I think overall the aesthetics were really good in this. I liked being in the mummy tomb. I think Vinny would have really enjoyed this had he been there. Like that would have been.
He probably
he would have loved
one
it.
Of
like,
his things.
Yeah, he would. He loves the Universal monsters, but. Yeah, the story was confusing, but I think that the second time we went in there, the scare actors made up for it by being very visceral, very intense, very in your face. So, which was really cool. So, we're gonna do two things. We're gonna wrap this sucker up. But I wanted to go around the horn real quick and give like final thoughts about it. Then we'll pick our favorite and our least favorite. So, Sarah, last final thoughts on the overall year and what you think, maybe how it compared to last year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's maybe because it's my second year and I'm not as like new to it that I didn't think it was as good as last year's. But then when I think about the houses, I feel like the houses were better than last year. I really think it's just the scare zones that weren't as good this year. But I really think the houses were better this year, and I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Zach?
So definitely enjoyed the houses a hell of a lot more this year versus last year. And yeah, I would say I had, for the most part, an overall better time. Just because, houses were better. We went 3 days. It's just next year we're absolutely getting those fucking fast passes because I'm standing in a line for another goddamn hour and a half just to see Michael.
And honestly, man, it's amazing that I waited in line as long as I did for all those years because I don't ever remember except maybe like once that we did fast passes and it's amazing that I waited in those lines for that. My patience is not as heavy as it used to be.
We are old.
Yeah, speak for yourself. Anyway, so. I think overall, I think that there were a lot of things that I enjoyed a lot more from this year versus last year. I think that I don't know if one was better than the other necessarily, but I think that there's definitely something to be said about not having the COVID restrictions that they had last year, and there was a lot more being able to be back to the old days, how they used to run shit and how they used to do shit, which I really loved and liked. That nobody was wearing masks. It wasn't glass and everything else. The scare zones were definitely, there was something to be desired from them. They were not that good, and they were definitely much better last year. It's almost like they did a flip. Like, I think the scare zones from last year were pretty damn good. And the houses, that there were some that were really great, and there were some that were awful, and then most of them were kind of in between. But I think for the most part that that the one thing I will say about this, and the thing I will remember for the rest of the forever, is that the houses this year, none of them were bad. At least in my perspective, in my opinion. At worst, they were okay. They did not stem into Texas Chainsaw Massacre area. Like, they weren't bad. They went from fucking knockout great to just okay. Which is fantastic. And I think that's my overall opinion. Sarah, favorite house, least favorite house.
Favorite house, probably the Dead Man's Wake. Least favorite Chupacabra, even though I didn't go into it.
How about a least favorite that you did go into?
I don't know. It's the weekend, obviously. What am I saying?
Fair enough. Zach.
Favorite would definitely be Dead Man's Wake, with the Chupacabra / Bug one being a close runner-up for second place. Least favorite being the Speakeasy, simply because I just do not remember shit about that one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm gonna have to pick. Definitely Dead Man's Wake. Was my favorite. With I think if I had to do Dead Man's Wake, Bugs Eaten Alive, and then Chupacabra, that would be my order. And I think least favorite house, just because of how much of a disappointment it was Spirits of the Coven. I was expecting a lot more. I wanted more, and I think I was disappointed. I mean, again, it wasn't a bad house from a just overall judgment perspective, but I was disappointed because I love the aesthetic so much that I really wanted more. I think I just wanted more, and I didn't get it. I did not get it. And I think that Halloween was ruined by the lines. I think it would have been a much better house in all of our eyes if the lines weren't so fucking long. So
probably.
So fast passes, all the way next year. So yeah, this is fucking awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah, for hanging out. I know you got to get going, so I'm gonna close this out. Thank you so much for checking out this review of the 2022 Halloween Horror Nights. If you like this, you can check out our normal YouTube channel. If you do like it, like I said, you can stab that like button, smash that subscribe, and click that little dingy bell to be notified every time we drop amazing content. You can find this, like I said, on YouTube, and then check us out on social media, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and
Slasher,
the app for all things horror. Thank you so much. We will see you next year for our Halloween Horror Nights review. Bye, guys.